So we went through the two different versions. Okay, the first version of the Gemara, the first shaila was that if you're holding on to the animal, maybe you don't need to have the Rosh of Rubo as part of the requirements. So on that point, we're now going to try to prove that issue. That if you're holding, can you obviate the need to have Rosh of Ruba, that there needs to be at least a 2 amma distance within the Rishus HaYachid for the animal to be, or maybe we don't care, since I'm holding on to the head of the animal, I can waive the Rosh of Ruba requirement. Or not. So Toshima, come in here, Gomel Rosh of Ruba Mifnim, a Gomel who is his head and the majority of his body is inside, Oifsin Oisay Mifnim. So you can stuff his face and get him ready for a long trip by force feeding him inside that area where it's Rishus Yachid. Okay, but when you're force feeding him, clearly what you have to hold on to him. You can't force feed him without having the animal's head in your arms. Okay, as picture number 27 shows. Right, I guess the rest of his animal, is outside the partition there. So you get the majority of its body and its head, and he's holding on to it. And even though he's holding on to it, it clearly is a requirement that he needs to be Rosh of Rubo. So that seems to show that indeed there's no question that we require Rosh of Rubo, even though you're holding on to the head of the animal and you're holding on. Holding on to the pail is just incidental, but I guess even the key point is holding on to the head good enough? And apparently the answer is no. Okay, he says, okay, when you're force feeding, it's like you're holding on to the pail and you're holding on to the animal and you're holding on to the pail, you're holding on to the water. It's the same parallel situation. And yet, v'kabi'inon Rosh of Rubo. And yet, there's still a requirement of the Rosh of Rubo factor there. So, do we have our proof? Gemara says, not so fast. Amar Ravacha bar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Shesha, Shani Gomel Hayil v'tzavay aruch. A gomel is a very long neck. For a gomel to sort of swing its neck around and right away be out of Rishus Harabim, it's very easy. So, we're not going to trust you in that situation not to have Rosh of Rubo, because even though you're holding on to the neck of the animal, one swing takes you out, and you're in Rishus Harabim already, and you could be carrying. So to avoid that possible issue, we therefore require by Gomel the third factor. But maybe by regular animal, it's not necessary. So the shaila is still alive. Okay, let's see here. Let's see Rashi. Ofsen osomi b'fnim. Right, third wide line down in the bottom. Mefarish beperk mi shehichshich shetoichiv lo mispay harbe al korcha bebeis abliya. You shtup a lot of food in its mouth against its will, down its throat. So more than it would normally eat. Achinasa ke'evus, where you're turning him into like a trough. His stomach is becoming like a trough. In its stomach, shiotzel midbar, as it's going out to the desert. You're afraid you're not going to have food for the animal. You're not going to find fodder in the desert, and therefore let's strip him up now to make sure that we don't have a problem later. So you're planning ahead. So va'evus kamad nokat mana v'nokat lahu. Next Rashi, Shim einoi oiches b'tzavara einoi cholitchoy. There's no way, if you're not holding on to its neck, you would not be able to shtup the food down its throat. Yet, despite that, v'koboy Rosh Rubo. You still need Rosh Rubo. V'tifshot boy kamai. So let's resolve the first shaila, the lishtakama. V'tifshot boy kamai, the lishtakama. Which sounds like a little redundant. Let's resolve the first shaila of the first lashon. Okay, I don't think there are two shilas. It's just, okay. Boy, Kamais of the Lishnakama. Maybe there'll be other shilas. Maybe that's why he said it. Okay, I don't think we had more than one shilah per lashon at this point. But let's see. Okay, but the bottom line is let's resolve that because the fact that you're holding on to it and you still need Rosh Rubo. According to the second version, there was no Shaila, you need Rosh Rubo. That was never the Shaila in the second version, so you're not proving anything with this. So Midi, no, that's it, that's vital. Let's go to the next case, Toshma. Let's try another one. Behema Rosh Rubo Mifnim, an animal who is its head. The majority of its body is inside. You can shtup him inside the area in Rosh Hashanah without any concern. Okay, so again, here it is. Va'avos commandin akat mana. And avos, the case of force feeding him is like you're holding him. Denakat mana v'nakat lay. It's like you're holding the pail and you're holding the animal. Ukabina rosh of rubo, and you still need the additional factor of rosh of rubo. Okay, answering that for Shaila. So Gemara says, no, my behema namiditani gomel. No, what we're talking about is a gomel. Okay, really? Even though we said it behema, but what behema means is really gomel. It's unique to gomel, not true for any animal. He says, really? Vatanya behema, vatanya gomel. We have one brayse that says gomel. Now all of a sudden here we're switching to behema. Behema sounds like it's any animal, not just gomel. There's what? So the fact that there's another brayse with another reference, a different word, proves anything? Midi gabe adadi Tanya, were they written next to each other? Okay, Tanya, they were written independently. So the fact that one brayse chose the word gomel, the other brayse chose the word behema doesn't prove anything. Indeed, it's gomel in both cases, and in a non-gomel situation, we don't have a proof because you can learn that it's referring to gomel, and that's the story. Tanya, I will even bring you a raya that the context here is referring to gomel, and gomels are different. Why? Because Reb Elazar Eiser begomel hayav v'tzavari aruch. The Brisa says, Reb Elazar even if I'm holding on to the neck and I'm force feeding the animal and it's rosh of rubo inside rishus hayachid, you still can't do it. Since its neck is so long, I'm still afraid. Even with the rosh of rubo, I'm still afraid. So Rebbe Elazar doesn't say what he does need. Maybe he needs the entire animal inside. It's not so clear, but for sure he says that which the guidelines you set up are not sufficient. So clearly indicating that the initial point that I made is a valid one, that indeed gomel is different. Gomel is special, and you cannot extrapolate from a gomel to any other animal. Look at Rashi. Midi gabe adadi tanila. Were they written next to each other to anyway indicate that it's not a gomel? The Tana behema lo Tana gomel. The one who learned behema didn't learn gomel. My behema gomel, and therefore, what is really a behema? It's referring to a gomel. Okay, I guess those were animals that you would typically force feed to go out to the desert. So it's not so crazy to call the case of behema specifically referring to a gomel. And it's not that they were written in the same brisa that you have to, you can prove to me that the word behema can't refer to gomel. Certainly could. Okay, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, Rabbi Eliezer says that I don't even buy this concept of Rosh Rubo working, because Savari Aruch, V'avagav the Rov Gufim Ifnim, even though the majority of the body is inside, if he sort of grabs hold of itself, the gomel, and sort of really asserts itself and turns its neck, Yagiyad Rishus Rabbim, can reach out to Rishus Rabbim. So it's going to need more. I guess the logical next step is the entire body needs to be inside. I guess that would be what Rabbi Elazar would be saying. Okay, but the real point that the Gemara wants to make is that you see gomel is unique. Because what normally would work for any other animal, according to Rabbi Elazar, does not work for a gomel. So that certainly proves the point. Okay, let's proceed. 3 lines from the bottom. Amar Yitzchak Barada. Yitzchak Barada says as follows: Loi hutru pasi bros, eli oile regolim bavad. So this concept that we've been talking about in this parak of making these pasi bros and allowing you to use the well for the purposes of giving your animals was only instituted and only allowed for the Oli Regolim. Really? It was only if you go mamash going to Yerushalayim before the 3 Yom Tovim, that's where you have this heter to use these 4 L-shaped situations in the corner of the area of the 4 corners. Only there, but any other place, it's no go. Really, Vatanya lehucha pasi bros elo legabe behema bavad, that we only allowed pasi bros for an animal. Okay, to give your animal to drink, we allowed you this concept and this heter of pasi bros, but we didn't allow it for humans. Sounds like it doesn't say uniquely for Oli Regolim, just says for behema. So Gemara says, no, what that means, my behema, when it says that we allowed it for animals, behemis Oli Regolim. We meant for the animals who go up, or that you take up with you, to be Ola Regel, to go to Yerushalayim during the Yom Tovim. That's what we allowed Pasi Bros for. So it's now a double requirement. It's only during the Yontif time, and it's only for animals as opposed to humans. We're not going to allow, if you don't have animals with you and you just want to use Pasi Bros to let you, the human being, use the water, we're not going to allow that. For the human being, you can fetch and do it another way. Okay, Avo Adam, what about an Adam? Does he have that allowance? The answer clearly is no. Metafes, as we go to the top of Chaf Aleph, Metafes Viol, Metafes Viored. You sort of hold on with your hands and feet, and you go up, and you go down, and that's how you manage. So you have no heter if you are a human being to use Pasi Bros. Your heter is only for your animals. Okay, we're giving you a teirub for your animals more than for the person himself. Really, Eini Vamrav Yitzchak Amrav Yudam Shmuel. But what about what Rav Yitzchak says in the name of Shmuel? Loihutru Pasi Bros Elo Lobeir Mayim Chayim Bavad. But didn't we say that Pasi Bros is only allowed for springs, for wells that have flowing water, and not for freestanding just pits that have rainwater? That this is a machokas we had earlier, and we're paskening, like the Mandamar says, that the Pasi Bros is only made and only allowed for spring water that's flowing in the well. Now, if there's such a stipulation and such a limitation, why would that be true for animals? If we're talking about the only allowance to use Pasi Bros is for an animal and not for human, for an animal it doesn't make a difference. Well water versus rainwater and gathered water doesn't really matter for an animal. Water is water to an animal. So why would you, if it wasn't for a human, why would you make this split and say it only works for Be'er Mayim Chayim, where it says, Binon Mida Dechazi Adam. There's interesting answer, not so clear what this means, but basically what it literally means that, despite the fact that we are allowing it only for animals, you are required to have a high level of water. Now, obviously, well water is a much better quality than gathered rainwater, which is sitting there, who knows what is gathering around there. So that's not as clean and as usable. So even though it's only meant for an animal and the animal only has a heter, the allowance, nevertheless, it needs to be of a chush of a nature. The Mefarshim, the Rishonim do say that once you have the Pasi Bros for an animal, then the Adam can drink as well. But an Adam can't be the justification for it. The Adam can't be the basis for the Pasi Bros. You have to have the animals. Once you have the animals, but I don't know. So maybe that's part of what the Gemara means, although it's not really so clear. It doesn't seem that that's what the Gemara is answering. The Gemara is answering that, I guess, once we're going to allow you to use it for for a person, once you have it for a behemoth, you have the justification that the reason why we want only, well water, spring water is because we want it to be used by a person. That does not seem to be what the Gemara is saying, but maybe that's part of it as well. But it sounds you need to have chosh of water. Okay, let's take a look at Rashi. Behemoth Oli Regolim. Last Rashi on the page, on Amid Beis. So no, it doesn't mean behemoth stam. under any circumstances, it means the animals that are being taken up for Oli Regel. Avul Adam, but a regular person, a Jew, afilu oyrei l'golam loy hutar lidlois felishois, we are not going to allow you to use these pasi bros to bring up water for a regular person if you're the only need, right? People are the only need. That if that's the only need, that's not a justifiable need for pasi bros. You can enter inside, you can go into the well and get your stuff and get your water. So you don't need pasi bros. You can manage with that. How? Right, top Rashi on the page. Metafes. It seems like people are in better shape than they are today because I'm not sure how easy this is. Oches biyadav ragav b'ksolim. You hold on to with your hands and feet to the wall. V'nichtas v'yotzei, and you go in and you go out. Metafes karfir blaz. So it sort of seems like you can maneuver. Sounds almost acrobatic in nature, but seems like you can get down to the well and get your water and come back up, and it's not such a big deal. Okay. It's all right, you have to be in shape here. Okay, so Gemara says, Midi the Chazal Yadam. So, yeah, that's Gemara's answer. I'm sorry, not the Kasha's answer. Gemara's answer is that even though it's only allowed for animals, you need to have animals as part of the entourage there in order to justify pasi bros. It still needs to be Midi Chazal Yadam. It needs to be fitting for a human being. Kiva the Mayim Mashvele Mechitza. Since water is making it into, what's the hay? Seems like it's a different word that should be there. Hay, ayin. Okay, it's the water that's allowing, I guess, the water is justifying the mechitzas. I'm referring to the cropped out area, those 4 L-shaped corners, since waters are making them into a valid mechitza, bina mayim chashuvim. Right, so you need choshev water. Interesting answer. It's not so clear what really Rashi meant. Why do you need choshev water? But somehow there's different levels of water, and if it's shvach water, even though to an animal makes no difference whether it's shvach water or it's good water, an animal will take any water. No, if you're gonna mat the walls, you're gonna mat the walls for choshev water. Okay, sounds like a little bit of a musar art. Okay. Let's see weiter. Yevim Gufa, right? It's a Gufa, right? The 5 lines down. Gufa, loy hutra pasi bros ela lebehem levad. So we learned earlier that we are not allowing pasi bros to be effective, but for animals. A human will not justify the allowance of these L-shaped walls. Avul Adam metafes v'oil metafes v'yored. But an Adam has got to just do his little balancing act and use his hands and his feet to pull a little Spider-Man job and get down to the bottom of the well. V'mayur chavin. Okay, if it was wide, afilu Adam nami, then even for a person, it would work. Rashi. If it's wide, look at the Rashi 3 lines on the top. If it's wide, I can't. The guy's not 20 feet tall. So if it's a big well, and you clearly can't hold your feet and the hands on the side to maneuver yourself down, so you got no recourse in that situation, then we're going to cut you some slack, and we're going to allow you to use the pasi bros. You go ahead and fill up your pails and drink, and not a problem. Back to the Gemara. We're continuing this Bryce. We're quoting the Bryce in full now. Right? And you should not, these are words that ring quite familiar based on the last 2 days, okay, even though we might have psychologically tried to block it out, but Chas v'Shalom, I'm sure you remember it. And a person should not fill up his water and give it in front of the animal, with him holding on to the pitcher. But he should fill up the pail and pour it out for the animal, and the animal drinks on its own. So here the Brisa is saying you can't hold on to the pail, okay, when you're giving the animal to drink. Sounds like that this whole concept of pasi bros is only allowing you to put the water in front of the animal, but not allowing you to hold the pail while giving the animal water. Really? I mean, that doesn't seem to be what we've been dealing with all this time. Maskeflor of Anan Imke Mawilu Pasi Bros. Okay, if that's the case, then what did Pasi Bros help? I mean, you're being so restrictive that you're not even allowing the heter to allow you to hold on to the pail. That seems to be quite limiting. Look at Rashi. Okay, so v'yitain lifnei behemto. So you're allowed to pick up the water with the pail and put it in front of your animal. Just put it down. He himself is not allowed to hold the kli as it's in front of the animal. He must put it down and let the animal drink memela. So if that's the case, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, that's the next Rashi. Take that back. So stop right there. So back to the Gemara. So imkain ma'ilu pasi bros. If you're going to be so restrictive as to not allow the man to hold on to the pail, what did you help with this whole institution of pasi bros? To which Gemara responds shockingly, ma'ilu l'malus behed. Okay, no. What do you mean? What kind of question? It helps a lot. How do you get the water out of the well? You got the water out of the well because we allowed pasi bros. So what do you mean ma'ilu? The fact that we required you to put the pail down doesn't negate the allowance of pasi bros. So what kind of question are you asking? Mara says, no. What I'm asking is elma hol rosh of rubo shalpara. What I'm asking is we have this requirement of rosh of arubo, right? Together, that in other words, that when you feed your animal, the animal needs to be inside. If you're not allowed to hold the pail, then who needs the animal being inside? Then just put it down, and who cares where the animal is? It's not your headache anymore. You're just going to put it down. Clearly, if we're requiring Rosh of Ruba, which is a common theme in the Mishnah and in the Brisa, that seems to indicate that you need Rosh of Ruba because you are holding on to the pail, and it's a protection against moving out. So how could you say you got to put the pail down when it seems to fly in the face of everything that we've been learning recently in the last blot? It's what's going on. Let's just do that one Rashi. What do you mean? It allows you. There's a very big benefit from pasi bros because pasi bros allows you to take the water out of the well and put it in front of your animal. So what's the point? No. So more readjusted itself to say the point is, and the question is, why would you need a rosh of rubo if you're not allowed to hold the pail? Then the rosh seems to be completely superfluous in terms of a requirement. To which our good friend Abaye, who we now know, Baruch Hashem, we've done this Abaye twice. Now this is the third time we're doing Abaye. So at this point we should be well versed. Amar Abaye, Hach Maskinon, you got the wrong case. Okay, this Bryce is talking about a very specific case and nothing to do with the conventional wisdom case of pasi bros, where you're picking up the pail and feeding the animal the water, but rather. Okay, we're talking about a trough that's standing in Rishus Rabbim. It's 10 tvachim high and 4 tvachim wide. Rosh nichnas ben apasim, and its head was going into ben apasim, and we're so well versed, we don't even have to finish it. It's just v'gaimer, v'chuli, and etc. So we know the end of the story already. We know that this whole concern about taking the pail and going around and putting it in Rishus Harabim and then picking it up and putting it back into the trough. So that whole gezerah is what's going on here, and that's what the brisa means. Very much you'd say is missing from the actual text, but I guess Abaye had the Messiah that's what the pshat is, and we seem to accept it, and we're good to go. Okay, weiter in Shas. So let's go to the next halacha. So Omer Yirmiyah Barabba. So when it comes to a conventional case, if you're holding on, it seems that if you're holding on to the item, that was part of the shaila, which we didn't absolutely resolve. That once you're holding on to the item, do you also need? Because maybe it's by a gumel. We said we wanted to prove it. We said maybe that's by a gumel, but we still haven't actually proven that by a regular animal. If you're holding on to the head of the animal, maybe you don't need the rosh of rubo, or maybe you do need, and that remained unresolved. Okay, So next halacha. Amar Yami Baraba Amarav Ein Burgenin Bebavel. Okay, so we're sort of shifting gears for a minute, just for a second. We'll go right back to Pasi Bros, but there's no such concept of Burgenin in Bavel. What's Burgenin? So let's see Rashi. He'll explain to us what Burgenin is. Ein Burgenin Bebavel. The idea of Burgenin does not work in Bavel. The Amar B'Ketzad Ma'avrin, as we said in Daf Nun Hey, later on in one of the Prokim in Eruvin, we say like this: if you have a little hut outside the city, that's within 70 2/3 amas of the edge of the town, Mis'abrin Ima, the town in a sense gets pregnant as a result of this little hut, and it now extends. You just now extended the town, that distance of that hut, as long as the hut is within the 70 2/3 amas distance. And you measure the tchum of the ear from that point. And onwards. What are borginin? Sukkos she'osin shomer ear. It's sukkahs, it's huts that are made for the watchmen of the town. And these huts are not set places which have real firm structures. It's just a hut, and it could come and go. Or come Rav Yirmiyah, and Rav Yirmiyah is telling us the Hanach Burgen Ein Bebavel, that this allowance of Burgenin does not exist in Bavel. What does that mean? If you have a city in Bavel, and now you want to use a Burgenin to extend that city to allow you to walk 2,000 amas past a Burgenin, or maybe 5 Burgenins for all we know, right? If you're going to allow Burgenin, there's no limitation to how many Burgenin you can allow. You can set up huts. If you have huts every 70 amas, then you can end up going all the way, who knows where. You go from Bavel to Saudi Arabia. So Ika bitki de Maya. 1 second. Ve'emis arbanim meir de Bavel. Why the Bavel Ika bitki de Maya? Vishat filhe, because in Bavel you had a lot of these flash floods, so to speak, and they can just come and wash the Burgenin away. It has to have some level of significance in order to justify it being an extension. If it's an extension at 6 p.m. when Shabbos comes, but it ain't going to be there at 8 a.m., then what do you have? You have to have something that you have a valid assumption is there. So I don't know, in the Midwest when you have these hurricanes and things fly all over the place and everyone starts rebuilding their cities, but obviously that would still be kavua. But this Burgen is very flimsy and doesn't have any stability. As such, you can't rely on it in Bavel, where things are much more unreliable and unpredictable. Okay, right. That's halacha number 1. There are no Burgenin in Bavel. This because again, Burgenin is an allowance because of the fact that because it's so temporary. It required a rabbinic allowance to allow you to extend the city with a Burgenin. So that extension of that allowance only works in a place where there's a good chance that hut will end up being there after Shabbos is over, but not in Bavel. And what's the next halacha? V'lo pasi bros b'chutz aretz. And you cannot do the four-cornered situation with the L-shaped walls in chutz aretz. It's only a unique heter dafkan Eretz Yisrael. So Burgenin in Bavel, you can't use Burgenin in Bavel the shrichi bitka, that you have these floods. The water comes in and washes it away. And nor can you have pasi bros b'chutzar. It's lo shrichi misifta, because you don't have a lot of people going to learn Torah outside of Bavel. Bavel and Eretz Yisrael were the 2 places where there was a lot of spiritual activity, and people needed the heter of Pasi Baros to travel to Shurim in different places. But if you're not using that, and that's not the basis for the heter, like in Chutzlar, it's outside of Bavel, you can't use it. Aval ibcha avdina, but in the reverse, you could use. In other words, Pasi Bros in Chutzlaretz could work. Pasi Bros in Bavel could work, and Burgenin in Chutz Aretz could work. But Burgenin can't work in Bavel, and Pasi Bros can't work in Chutz Aretz. But the reverse would be true. Let's catch up in the Rashis. B'chutza la'aretz, b'shar artzos levad mi Bavel. In other lands outside of Bavel, you cannot use pasi bros. Why not? Lo shrichim esifta. Lios tamidim hoichem me'ir le'ir. You didn't have students of Torah going from city to city, l'ilmod Torah, to learn. Upasi bros hutru elul oli regolim. And this whole concept of pasi bros was only allowed for oli regel, ukiyotza behen, shochlin dvar mitzvah, or something similar. They're going for dvar mitzvah. So we have a little bit of a added leeway here. That no, it doesn't have to be dafka ola regel, but any other dvar mitzvah like mesifta, like going to shurim. So that happened only in Bavel, but it was very unusual for these mesiftas to happen in chutz la'aretz. And I guess l'chayra, I mean, I don't know. I'm just speculating. So now do you need animals also for the mesifta? L'chayra, then you don't need it, right? You only need the animals because you go into Eretz Yisrael. I don't know, because I mean the whole svara was like more said a human can do it on his own. So maybe it's the same. I'm not sure. So you have to be going to a shear with your animals. Maybe. Okay. Let's see here. Let's go weiter. Okay, there's another version of what just went down. This is much more far-reaching and sweeping statement across all lines. In both cases, Ein Burgen and Pasi Bros, the het of Burgenen and the het of Pasi Bros do not exist. Neither in Bavel and not in Chutzarts. Nothing. Okay, all you have is Burgenen and Pasi Bros in Eretz Yisrael, but nothing in Bavel and nothing in Chutzarts. But Bavel lo yidishichi bitcha. You can't use Burgenen and Bavel because of the floods. But Chutzarts namilo the shrichi ganove. In Chutzarts you can't use it either because you have ganovim that will steal your hut. So you wake up in the morning and your hut's gone. Okay, sounds like already the inner city. Pasi bros b'Bavel, you can't use pasi bros in Bavel the shrichi maya because you have plenty of wells, plenty of springs to be able to get your water for your animals without requiring pasi bros. Right? The whole idea was you want to carry from the well to Rishus Harabim, and you have to turn the Rishus Harabim into Rishus Yachid. So the only way to do that with pasi bros. But if you have a spring, you just bring the animal to the spring. You're good to go. So pasi bros lo de shrichi maya, b'chutzarts nami loy de loy shrichi mesifta. You don't have any allowance in the chutzarts because there's no real justification. There were no real students. There's no dvar mitzvah. The only dvar mitzvah after the churban would have been to go shurim, to go to learn Torah, and learning Torah was not a very common event in chutzarts outside of Bavel. Let's see Rashi. The shrichi ganave, the ganvilhu that will steal the huts. How could you call something chashuv enough to be called a house that will extend the chum another 70 amis if it very well won't be there the very next morning because somebody stole it? Okay, Bavel, you can't use pasi bros as shricha maya. V'loy hutra pasi bros elam mokum shetzrichen megishamim. You only are allowed to use pasi bros when you need the rainwater. Lekonson v'lishos man to gather up and to drink from it. Deika dochek. There's a pressure. There's I don't have another choice. It's interesting here too because we just said before it only applies to non-rainwater. Here we're seemingly saying that when it comes to using it in Bavel, or in general, it's when, not in Bavel, just in Eretz Yisrael, it's because you needed the water, because water generally gathered in Eretz Yisrael through the rain process, and not through wells. Okay, so, I don't know, we paskin before, that it only applied by spring water, by wells that are getting water from the ground as opposed to gathered rainwater. Also, not so clear that Rashi seems to be shifting over to the other side, or the Gemara seems to be shifting a little bit. Okay, so therefore you don't have a heter of pasi biros in Bavel because you had many other avenues of which to rely on, and only in Eretz Yisrael where you didn't have those many avenues, all you really had was the rainwater that gathered as a result of rain. So there, they allowed Pasi Rolls to work. Fine. Okay, no more Rashis. Ready to go weiter. Back to the Gemara. Okay, Omri Rav Chizda, Lemori Braid Rav Huna, Braid Rav Yirmiyah Bar Abba. Okay, so Rav Chizda told Mori, the son of Rav Huna, who's the son of Rav Yirmiyah Bar Abba, Amrei Asisu Mi Barnish Lebe Kinishta, the Daniel. They have told me that you go on Shabbos from Barnash, which is your hometown, to the shul of Beiknishta de Daniel, to the shul that Daniel davened in, that you travel that distance. How big is that distance? Of it's Chosei Parsei B'Shabbata, 3 parsas long on Shabbos. That seems to be a nice Shabbos walk. So, Amais Samchisu, what are you relying on to do that walk? What do you, because how much is a pars? A pars is 4 mil. Okay, if you're traveling 3 parses, that's 12 mil, right? 12 mil is about 8 miles, 10 miles, whatever, somewhere in that range. So that's a long distance. That's certainly more than the Tchum, because 1 mil is 2,000 amas. 2,000 amas is all you've got typically. So how in the world do you travel all of that distance to get to Daniel Shul? So Arburganin, right? You must be relying on Burganin, because there's no way you have a full cities all the way through. But the father of your father said, in the name of Rav, Ein Burganim Bavel, that he went on record to say there's no such thing as Burganim Bavel, and this is Bavel. So what exactly are you relying on? So Nafik va'achvilei hanu masvasa the mavlan b'shivim amma v'shirayim. So he showed him these ruins that existed all the way between these 12 mil distance between Barnash and between the Shul of Daniel. You had these masvasas, these ruins that were still somewhat valid structures that allowed him to travel the distance. And it's not Burganin, because Burganin wouldn't work, but these ruins do work, because they're firm, they're not going to get blown away, they're not going to get stolen, and they justify. Look at Rashi. Amrei dika asisumi barnash lebe kinishta Daniel. They tell me that you go from Barnash to the shul of Daniel. Shamati shoimir malechem shatem boim mi barnish lebe kinishta Daniel b'Shabbos. Right, I heard that they say about you that you go from Barnish to the shul of Daniel on Shabbos. Mokom hay b'Bavel sheshomim yispal Daniel. It was a place in Bavel where Daniel would pray. The ksiv v'chavein pesison leibi balisa. Right, so some kind of he would have kavanah there at the opening of the attic. So it seems to be some pasuk in Daniel that seems to indicate there was a set place where he would pray. That's a little vav, a pasuk in Daniel. Okay, that tells you where the pasuk is. Fine. And the answer is, and he asked him, "Amai kos samchisu? What are you relying on? A burganin? Sheish burganin mishivim amma l'shivim amma. There's 70. Every 70 amas is a burganin that takes you from that allows you to go from Barnash to Daniel's shul." What about our rule? Ein burganim b'Bavel. So that can't be the allowance. You can't rely on that. He says, you're right, I can't, but I had masvasa. Ayoros charevas. There were literally barren cities that were in ruins. V'nisharu sham mechitzas min abatim. You had houses, you had walls from the houses left over. V'amri asam perkei ma'avrin nefesh shol nifritzu tahainu mitzvahs kever misaberes me'ir. Okay, so I guess some kind of any walls or any structures that were left over that were additions to the city, they can be joined to the city. Even though it's not a mamash house, but it's like ruins. I don't know if they have a picture there of the ruins, but whatever. But that is enough of a structure that as long as it is considered someplace where you could hang your hat, so to speak, that's able to extend the city. And with this, we'll pick it up on Sunday position.